Our brains, our cognitive system is not meant to be stimulated so much in so many different ways in such a short period of time. Overloading our cognitive system, especially when you do it every day, all day, every day, has short-term and long-term adverse effects on our executive functioning abilities like decision making, problem solving, critical thinking. They want us addicted because brain rot makes the perfect consumer. Shopping addiction, gambling addiction, social media addiction. In our society, all of those behaviors contribute to the profit of the ruling class. The more we scroll, the more we shop, the more we consume without any critical thought, the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. Hey y'all, it's Sarah Maria. Welcome back to my channel where we break down the problem of consumerism and its intersection with other systems of oppression, taking a deep dive into how we can be more conscious consumers and people in general. Social media has revolutionized our world by creating unprecedented ease of access to consumption of both material and non-material things like ideas, beliefs, and perspectives. While it does help cultivate passion and connection, the mainstream use of it mostly just further entrenches us in consumerism and hyper-individualism. So rather than this amazing technology being primarily used as a way to build community and employ mutual aid, both things the world desperately needs, instead of that, it's used for marketing of the self and marketing of goods and services. It's a way for us as individuals to very consciously decide and control who we are to others by curating their experience of us, sharing certain pictures, sharing certain moments. For corporations, social media is a way for them to have access to even more methods of increasing profits through incessant and invasive advertising. For the wealthy and powerful, it can also be a way for them to cultivate and control spaces that support their own worldview and ideologies. All this to say, in the context of consumerism, I think social media has worked to create an even more docile and impressionable consumer base. A consumer base that's even more willing to buy first and think later, to buy more, not less. This partially comes from social media's addictive design, degrading our ability or even our desire to think critically. And when employed together with incessant marketing and advertising, this leads to a society even more deeply enamored with consumerist values and even more willing to follow the herd when it comes to buying into what's trending, whether that be buying a specific viral dress or subscribing to an entire lifestyle or set of beliefs. Marketing used to be reserved for billboards, magazines, TVs, but now it's embedded within the media we access all day, every day, from the tips of our fingers. As a marketing tool, the social medias have done a great job. Addictive design, exponential growth, and seemingly unlimited potential. But the reality is, social media and specifically social media advertising is encouraging us more and more to live in a way that is unsustainable. All that being said, we need to talk about how one of the newer social media platforms, TikTok, has changed the way we consume. We are consuming at hyper speed. Shorter attention spans make us scroll faster. More trends and must-haves make us hit the buy button faster and more often. The increase in influencer marketing and haul culture normalizes and glorifies this hyperspeed consumption. And so my hot take is this: TikTok has done more bad for society than good. That might not be a hot take. Maybe it is a hot take depending on who you're talking to. But as a recovering TikTok addict myself, who has been off the substance for about 6 months now, I see very clearly the ways in which TikTok has altered the fabric of society in both good and bad ways. The good: it's allowed for unprecedented levels of access to people, information, and ideas, thus opening up more pathways for people to share knowledge and resources, grow a business, start a music career, etc. The bad: It has facilitated an even more intense smartphone addiction and an even more intense overconsumption problem. Over the past few years, we have seen the world of media and marketing change so much, as it does in every generation. And while many factors have obviously contributed to this, the most recent catalyst was, in my opinion, TikTok. Whether you use it or not, you know exactly what it is. And most likely you do use it, have used it in the past, or know someone that uses it. TikTok is one of the most downloaded apps in the world, with hundreds of millions of downloads every year and over 1 billion monthly active users globally. What started out as a silly little app where people make up dance routines has now essentially become a global marketplace where the consumption of material goods and ideas has become easier than ever before. Influencer culture is now on steroids as brands rush to take advantage of the new advertising model. Short-form content that triggers herd mentality like shopping by using individual, everyday people that consumers feel they can trust and relate to. That's essentially what an influencer is, right? On top of that, in September 2023, TikTok Shop was launched, which is basically TikTok's version of Amazon, where you can buy practically anything with a click of a button as you scroll. Aside from material consumption, ideas and trends spread like wildfire. Do you remember last year when The Guardian removed Letter to the American People from their website after it went viral on TikTok? After being up for 20 years on their website, they took it down because it was being widely shared on social media without the full context. It erupted into a huge online discourse around the relations between the US and the Middle East, and the powers that be did not seem to like that very much. While there were some creators likely taking it out of context and spreading misinformation or false ideas, there is a larger conversation to be had around censorship and the striking down of certain conversations but not others. But I digress. The letter was swiftly removed from the website, videos taken down, accounts banned, hashtags removed, all because of TikTok virality. If that doesn't show you just how powerful of a tool a media outlet like TikTok is for influencing public opinion and consciousness, I don't know what will. In this video, we're exploring the intricate web of social media, TikTok, consumerism, and how they're working together to rapidly change societal norms. We're talking about how TikTok is one of the most effective tools for capitalist greed in today's society, and how it traps everyday consumers into their game of greed. So let's get into it. Why is TikTok so addictive? Well, they want us addicted because brain rot makes the perfect consumer. TikTok uses a similar architecture to other social media platforms, all reliant on variable reward systems to induce addiction in the hopes that users will spend more time on their platforms. So what are variable reward systems? Under operant conditioning, behavior is modified by the consequences that follow it. So in order to increase the occurrence of a certain behavior, a desirable good feeling reward must be presented after that action. That's going to make you do this more to get to this. However, if an action is done and the same reward is given every single time, the reward may stop being as effective in increasing the occurrence of that behavior. In applied behavior analysis, this is called satiation. To avoid reward satiation, we got to switch it up. Give different rewards at different times, keeping it unpredictable, which keeps the brain more excited and anticipatory by more strongly exciting dopaminergic neurons. These are the brain cells that release dopamine, which, if you don't know, is a very important chemical in our brains that plays a key role in things like pleasure, reward, and addiction. A study by Wolfram Schultz showed that dopamine neurons are not triggered by reward consumption per se. Instead, they resemble a reward prediction error, reporting the difference between the reward that is received and the reward that was predicted to occur. occur. Thus, if a reward is larger than predicted, dopamine neurons are strongly excited. If a reward is smaller than predicted or fails to occur at its appointed time, dopamine neurons are phasically inhibited. And if a reward is cued in advance so that its size is fully predictable, dopamine neurons have little or no response. In simple terms, this means that dopamine neurons respond more excitedly to a lack of predictability. They like to be surprised. This is why variable reward systems like the ones social media platforms use are so effective in keeping us hooked. This kind of behavioral conditioning is also what fuels gambling addiction, which by nature relies on unpredictable and potentially large rewards. The two types of variable rewards that pertain to social media use are 1, tribe, and 2, hunt. Tribe refers to rewards that make us feel accepted, important, and attractive. In social media terms, this could be seen as likes, comments, or other engagements like DMs or reposts. All those random, unpredictable notifications that pop up, dopamine neurons going nuts. The second one, hunt, refers to those that satisfy our curiosity and desire for information. This is the entire basis of consuming content on social media. With every scroll and refresh, you will be exposed to new information of some kind, and you never know exactly what it will be. Where the TikTok model differs from other social medias is the For You page, which essentially puts the variable reward system on steroids. The traditional social media model features a homepage full of content from creators you decided to follow, add as a friend, or subscribe to. But TikTok's For You page suggests content to you from users you don't follow and maybe have never even engaged with. And they make these suggestions based on the kind of content you typically engage with. So every time you open the app and every time you refresh or scroll, you really have no idea what you will encounter, even more so than other social media platforms. That is one of the things that makes TikTok more addictive than other platforms. They have created an algorithm and an interface that is a perfect execution of a variable reward system, which strongly excites dopamine neurons in our brain every time we use it. TikTok also has a very simple and full screen interface. When you open TikTok, you will be immediately met with a random video playing, taking up your entire screen. Most likely, you will watch a little bit of it and scroll to the next one, and scroll to the next one, and scroll to the next one. Probably only occasionally staying to watch a full video. Next thing you know, 20 minutes have passed, or maybe even an hour, or maybe even hours. Then you're like, what just happened? What did I just watch? What did I just watch? I should buy that skincare. There's so many things I just learned about. I should buy that skincare product. That girl showed me. That looked like a good restaurant. That video was really sad. Maybe I should buy that skincare product that girl showed tomorrow. If you're anything like me, this is an extremely unsettling feeling. The reason why it's so unsettling is because our brains, our cognitive system is not meant to be stimulated so much in so many different ways in such a short period of time. The concept of context switching is often used in the corporate world, and it refers to the act of shifting your attention between different tasks, projects, and thought processes. Any corporate article you find talking about this will say, it's a major productivity killer. When you're constantly switching back and forth between tasks, it takes more time for your brain to process the information and transition between contexts. While it may be true that context switching has negative effects on productivity, focus, and workflow for some, ultimately it varies based on someone's level of cognitive flexibility, which is essentially just the ability to multitask. It's the ease with which someone switches from one task to another, or the ability to flexibly allocate resources to process and manage information in a constantly changing environment. Mental resources, that is. Cognitive flexibility is crucial in almost every aspect of daily life, like being able to drive without crashing by paying attention to different and rapidly changing visual stimuli, or being a student and going from class to class where you learn different things and discuss different topics, but still are able to learn and process their information, complete assignments, and even connect what you're learning between each of them. While many genetic and environmental factors affect cognitive flexibility, it has been found that smartphone use reduces cognitive flexibility. Surprise, surprise. Hadlington found that individuals who use mobile phones problematically in daily life are more likely to have cognitive difficulties in later life. Moreover, in a study, the mere presence of a smartphone impaired students' cognitive performance, indicating that the mere reminder of one's smartphone may have a detrimental impact on one's cognitive abilities. Another aspect of the detrimental effects of smartphone use on our cognitive functioning has to do with the cognitive load theory, which explores the limitations of working memory in humans' capacity to learn and process information. Working memory just means the brain's ability to hold new information so that it can work with it and integrate it with other pieces of information. It's a key aspect of learning, critical thinking, and reflection. However, working memory has limited capacity, with a maximum duration of about 20 seconds, ability to hold about 7 chunks of information, and with a maximum concurrent processing limit of 2 to 4 chunks of information. The brain has limited processing capacity for dealing with new information and stimuli. Overloading our cognitive system, especially when you do it every day, all day, every day, has short-term and long-term adverse effects on our executive functioning abilities like decision-making, problem-solving, critical thinking, etc. To get technical, there are different types of cognitive load. There's intrinsic cognitive load, which refers to the mental effort required for certain information or topics, and extraneous cognitive load refers to the way this information is presented. If the available working memory resources needed to process the intrinsic and extraneous load are exceeded, the cognitive system cannot process all the information to some extent, which results in poorer cognitive abilities. This article explores the presence of a smartphone as an extraneous cognitive load, citing evidence that they serve as distractions in learning environments and that they have negative effects on sleep, stress, and academic performance. They cite several studies that attributed the presence of a smartphone to worse performance on neuropsychological tests, inhibited development of interpersonal interactions, and impaired memory performance and information retrieval. All of these studies explore the effects of the presence of a smartphone on cognitive functioning. But there's even more to be said about what's happening to our brains as we are actively using the smartphone. Speaking anecdotally, I know that if I'm scrolling on my phone, I have less attentional capacity to listen to the people around me or to pay attention to my surroundings. It's almost like it takes me into another world. I'm sure you know what I mean. And if I've been scrolling for a while, I can feel my mind start to race due to the oversaturation of information and visual stimuli on my brain's cognitive load. It's too much. I hear people talk all the time about how they go to bed late because they're up scrolling on TikTok or Instagram Reels. Happens to the best of us. And I see people disengage from our conversation the moment they attend to a notification or a video on their phone, and I find myself having to repeat what I just said. And I'm sure I do that to other people as well sometimes when they're talking to me. All that being said, this begs the question, what is happening to our brains as we become more and more addicted and dependent on our phones and on social media? Not only what is happening to our individual cognitive system, but what is happening to the collective cognitive system. As a collective, are we becoming less curious, less reflective? Are we more likely to believe something just because we heard someone say it, as opposed to gathering information and taking the time to analyze for ourselves? Are we more likely to be impulsive and reactive as opposed to slow and thoughtful? This brings me to my next point. Doesn't it make sense that this collective cognitive decline just might be exactly what the ruling class wants? Let me explain. In the context of simple capitalism, we have the ruling class and the working class. The ruling class owns the means of production and they profit off of the labor of others. These are the head honchos, the CEOs, the top 1% as we commonly know them. The working class is an oversimplified term for everybody else, basically. The working class are the people who profit off of their own labor and do not own means of production. Think of how we get paid a certain amount for 1 hour of our labor. Not only does the working class provide all the labor that fuels society, but we are also the consumers that buy the products of this labor. We have to trade our little coins in order to own anything, from something as small as a potato to something as big as a house. But the ruling class, theoretically, is profiting from the working class at the front end and at the back end. They profit from our production because they needed the working class to grow that potato or to build that house. And then they also profit from our consumption because they need the working class to buy that potato and to buy that house. Now, if as the working/consumer class, we let our brains rot thanks to the likes of TikTok and other addictive behaviors, not only are we going to be asking less questions and being less critical due to our impaired cognitive abilities, but we are simultaneously starved of meaningful passion and the pursuit of knowledge. Both are things that require lots of time and patience to cultivate, which, let's face it, we are not exactly provided the luxuries of time and patience under capitalism. Thank you, 40-hour work week, and thank you to the ever-widening wealth gap that leads more and more of the working class to have to work more for less. So you have so many people working multiple jobs and still barely getting by. What time do those people have for their passions, their hobbies, and the pursuit of knowledge? And essentially, what time do they have for anything that's not making them money? So in place of time-intensive hobbies and the beautiful, never-ending pursuit of knowledge, you know, those things you have when you're a kid with no job and no bills, and you just spend a ridiculous amount of time on arts and crafts and silly little games, and you're just curious about any and everything, and you want to know how all these random things work just because. Yeah, instead of that, as adults, we pursue strong, fast spikes of dopamine in whatever way we can find it because it makes feeling good super easy. So easy that even if adverse effects follow, we will seek out that easy dopamine hit again and again. That's the biological basis of most behavioral addiction: shopping addiction, gambling addiction, social media addiction, etc. In our society, all of those behaviors contribute to the profit of the ruling class. The more we scroll, the more we shop, the more we consume without any critical thought. Bars. The poor get poorer and the rich get richer. So what do we do? I've been getting lots of comments asking about action steps, and I'm still learning how to take action myself. We're all on this journey together. But I will say that it starts with knowledge and consciousness. It starts with asking critical questions of the systems we have mindlessly subscribed to and thinking outside the box of these systems. Denormalizing oppression and injustice. Denormalizing dehumanization. We need to collectively become hypersensitive to global violence. There is no reason why there should be a live stream genocide going on for over a year that our government is fully supporting and funding with our tax dollars, and a lot of society is just tolerating it or acting like it's not even happening. But with this collective awakening, it will be a painful experience as more and more of us break out of our comfortable conditioning. So we have to lean on each other and find love and upliftment in community and mutual aid efforts. So back to the point of this video, my whole point in making this is not necessarily to provide a solution or to place all the blame on social media. Nothing is that simple. The point is to spark a conversation that is thinking critically about the system of social media and how it connects with oppressive consumerism and capitalism. As I said in the beginning of this video, TikTok has created unprecedented ease of access to consumption, and one of the ways they've done this is by capitalizing on influencer marketing. Disclaimer, influencer marketing has been around long before TikTok, and of course it is used a lot on other social media platforms, especially now. However, in my opinion, TikTok has added new levels to the game and made influencing even more mainstream, thus prompting more brands to resort to using it and encouraging more individual consumers into consumerism by it. Many of us have likely gotten used to the term social media influencer, but what really is it? In simplest terms, they are individual, everyday people with a phone or a camera that get paid by companies to promote products online. In more complex terms, the concept of a social media influencer relies on the development of parasocial relationships between viewers and creators, resulting in a sense of trust in and admiration for the creator. A bit like a one-sided friendship, because the creator doesn't know the viewers personally, but the viewers have a sense of trust in and admiration for the creator. And the reason why influencer marketing is so lucrative for brands and for the influencers themselves is because this sense of friendship and trust that viewers feel is very effective in making them buy things when an influencer they love promotes it. Social media is what allows for these parasocial relationships that have proven very beneficial for corporations. Think about seeing an ad for a face cream on a billboard for 1 second as you drive past it, or even seeing a commercial on TV for that face cream with a model that doesn't look like you and you don't relate to them in any way, versus your friend who you love and trust telling you about this face cream they use and how they're obsessed with it and how their skin looks so beautiful, blah blah blah. Which is gonna be more effective in making a quick sale of that face cream? The second one, obviously. What social media influencer marketing allows for is the second one at a mass scale. Some beauty influencers have 10 million followers. The people that pay attention and actually engage are maybe half of that. So boom, 5 million parasocial relationships that you can capitalize on, where you pay the creator a nice sum to get them to work so that their millions of internet friends will want to buy that product. And it works like a charm. So how has TikTok specifically capitalized on this? Unlike other apps and platforms, a user's existing following and engagements don't matter when you share a video, as every video is judged on its merit. On TikTok, a teenager has as much of a chance to go viral as a big record label or a brand. The beauty of TikTok's algorithm and interface is that the path to building internet fame and influence is more accessible and faster to achieve than what was previously possible on other social media platforms. As someone who used to love lifestyle, beauty, and fashion content, most of the influencers I used to follow built a huge following and literally changed their life in the span of a year or two, garnering hundreds of thousands of followers, huge networking and travel opportunities, and presumably hundreds of thousands of dollars, all while being an everyday person, going to college, working a 9-to-5, living humbly. Then suddenly, boom, they're rich and being invited into the same rooms as the CEOs and the celebrities thanks to TikTok. What previously took content creators on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram years to build was now possible in months. That's why we have a whole lot more influencers, a whole lot more people wanting to be influencers, a whole lot more people getting advertised to by influencers, and a whole lot more marketing resources being devoted to influencers. The elaborate PR packages sent to thousands of creators, the huge mega luxury statement brand trips to beautiful places. Corporations are investing big money into influencer marketing because their return on investment is probably tenfold. So what's going on here? You might see it differently, but I'll tell you what I see. Social media influencer culture is yet another agent of hyper-capitalist greed, masked in the illusion of a community-oriented ideal. Of course, I want to see women, and I say this because it's predominantly women that are influencers. Obviously, this isn't exclusive to women, but of course, I want to see women, and especially women of color, breaking down boundaries to wealth and equity and getting to live a beautiful, happy life of their dreams. If promoting products and consumerism online helps them access that, then shouldn't we support it? Of course, I want to be a part of online communities centered around self-love and girl chats. I myself have definitely developed parasocial relationships and started to feel connected to people who share their life online. It sounds concerning, but it's actually quite comforting, or used to be. I started to have my own awakening about the reality of social media influencing. What happens when influencers win and blow up and become wealthy and successful? Is a win for them really a win for us all if they primarily just use their platform to further promote consumerism and to encourage viewers to spend their money on things they don't need so that the wealthy shareholders and CEOs can keep getting rich off of us? The whole thing started to become very unsettling for me. I started to think about the fact that while I feel like I'm being a girl's girl and supporting my favorite creator while also satisfying my own internalized consumerism, what system am I actually supporting though? Is it community and equity? Nah. It's still the oppressive and exploitative multinational corporations that encourage wastefulness, overconsumption, and rely on cheap labor and resources largely from the global south, all for their own profits. So the increasing pervasiveness of influencer marketing, especially thanks to TikTok, is really just another agent of hyper-capitalist greed, and it allows for the continued normalization of overconsumption that largely targets young women. And it doesn't stop at normalizing it, it glorifies it. As someone who used to be in the influencer space of the internet, both consuming and creating that type of consumerist-oriented content, I've seen how easy it can be to be trapped in the bubble of consumerism, to be trapped in the constant cycle of buying more and wanting to make more money so you can buy more and buy more. But for me, that is no way to live. I think social media is a beautiful thing, and like any beautiful thing, there are some ugly sides to it. As I said in the beginning, social media can be a tool for sharing knowledge and resources, building and mobilizing movements for positive social change. But as we've talked about extensively, it can also be used as a tool for dumbing down a society, for creating a population that is less curious, passionate, and tenacious. This is a population that is more easily subdued, less likely to revolt against oppressive conditions. To quote this article by the late David Graeber, if there's one thing governments fear the most, reflected my friend Starhawk, it's the prospect of the population becoming ungovernable. When a population is systematically dumbed down, and that doesn't happen just through social media or even primarily through social media, that also happens within the education system that's rapidly crumbling. But when a population is systematically dumbed down, they can more easily be kept within the bubble of consumerism, conditioned to believe that buying things and services and pandering to all these superficial values is what makes a good life. It's how you know you made it. What I'm saying is, pop the consumerism bubble. Start to be more conscious of the media you're consuming and the worldview that that media supports. Is what you're spending your time doing or watching adding positively to your life? Or is it just cluttering your mind and making you feel drained? Is it teaching you new things or just showing you new things you should buy? Is it making you feel good about yourself or subconsciously making you feel like a failure by capitalist standards? Because somehow everyone online seems to be making so much money, affording expensive things, traveling the world, getting successful, lucrative jobs. Maybe you start to feel like, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything wrong. It's just that our capitalist society needs people with low self-esteem who will derive their worth from material things and who will work really hard to be able to afford those material things. Ultimately, if we remember that our worth is inherent to our being and that life is about more than material things, money, and work, that's when we begin to revolt against oppressive capitalism. Revolt against the system that keeps the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it resonated with you in some way. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear them. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so you can be notified every time I upload. And I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao!